Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very empowering show coming right up with special guest, Professor Susanne-Schotz, and she's here today to talk with us about her new book, The Secret Language of Cats: How to Understand Your Cat for a Better and Happier Relationship. Now, Susanne works at the Center for Languages and Literature at Lund University in Sweden, where a long-standing research program is proving that cats do actually use vocal communications with each other and with their human caretakers. Understanding the vocal strategies used in human-cat communication will have a profound impact in how we communicate with our pets, and has a potential to improve relationships between animals and humans within several fields, including animal therapy, veterinary medicine, and animal sheltering. So let's welcome to the show Professor Susanne-Schotz.
Thank you.
What an honor it is to have you here. And you know what? I think there are people that are out there going, gosh, I need this book now. I can't believe a book hasn't been written before about what my cat is saying to me.
Well, I wanted to know before as well, so I decided to write a book myself. Since I have 5 cats of my own, I've started to listen to them more and more carefully, and I've learned quite a lot during this time. And since I am a phonetician of profession, I've also used some scientific methods to study these sounds more carefully. And it has gotten me into a so much happier relationship with my cats. And I hope that I can contribute to other cat owners and their cats as well.
Well, and why don't we start from the basics? So what is a phonetician?
Well, a phonetician is a linguist who studies spoken language, speech, so to say. Mm-hmm. So we study human speech, and we use methods which include we look at how the sounds, different speech sounds are produced, articulated with the larynx, with the vocal cords, with how we use our tongues and lips to articulate different sounds. And we also use acoustic analysis to look at the recorded speech signals and see how they are distributed in different frequency ranges and what is the difference between 2 vowels, for instance, and also the speech rhythm and the melody is studied with acoustic methods. And then finally, we use auditory analysis. We look at the perception, how we perceive speech in various ways. So we use 3 basic paradigms of investigating sounds. And I found that this translates quite beautifully into studying cat sounds as well.
How long did your research take you when you were doing all this work and investigating, the different sounds that cats make and the correlation between that and the language we can understand from them?
Well, this is still work in progress, I must confess. I'm not nearly there learning. I haven't learned half of all the things and the variation in cat sounds so far, but we have a research project now where we look specifically at the melody, the intonation in cat sounds. And we have recorded about 70 cats in Sweden now. So I'm just in the process of looking at these video films and also listen very carefully to the conversation between the cats and their owners. And I find something new every day, and it's really, really exciting.
Your research reminds me of Jane Goodall's research in the earlier days when she first started, and you hear about just the excitement and the things that were being discovered on a daily basis. What are some of the things that have surprised you in your research?
Well, first of all, I must say that I had no idea that there was so much variation in cat sounds, and not just within the vocal repertoire of a single cat, which is huge. It's so wide. It's also quite different between different cats. I mean, I have triplets with completely distinct different voice qualities. So they have their personal voices, and they use slightly different sounds to communicate the same thing to me, which is really interesting in a way. But also there's so much difference between different breeds of cats. Has something to do with the size, with the age, with the sex. Female cats are often smaller, so they have smaller vocal organs, and therefore their voices are more high-pitched and brighter than male cats. So there's so much variation. I had no idea there was so much.
Well, and so I've got so many questions here. We'll see how much we can cover today. So, a lot of times when people think of cats, they think of cats meowing. What does that really mean? What are they trying to tell us?
Well, that's an interesting question. And although I just said that there's so much variation and there's so many differences in cat sounds, all cats, more or less, they can meow. So there are some universal features in all the cat vocalizations. Most cats can meow, they can trill or chirp, this brrrt kind of sound, and they often can purr. Sometimes they purr in so low frequencies that we can't perceive them with our human ears. But meowing is a really, really interesting sound category, because I think adult cats use meowing mainly for communication with their owners, with us humans, because we understand meowing. We are not into the scent signals that cats use to communicate with other cats. We don't always look at the cats. We are so busy with our computers, with our TV sets, with our books and whatever. We can't see the visual signals. We ignore them sometimes. So they have to use sounds to communicate their needs and their wishes with us. And meowing has sort of developed into a perfect way of getting the attention of us humans. And I'm not the first one who's found variants of meowing, subtypes. It was discovered in the 1940s by an American psychologist called Mildred Milk. She divided meowing into 4 subcategories, depending on their phonetic qualities, characteristics. So that's the very high-pitched mew, which is, if you think typically of a kitten who wants to get the help or the attention of her mother, she has a very mew, high-pitched kind of meowing sound. Mm-hmm. And then there's the squeak, which is also fairly high-pitched, but often a bit raspier, more nasal-like, and sometimes with a e or a vowel quality, the wah kind of sound. And then there's the moan, the sad moaning of cats when they are perhaps sometimes on the way to the vet clinic, and they're sitting in their carriers and during car rides and whatever, and they sound really, really sad. And this type often has an O or U quality, meow, these kind of sounds. And then finally the typical meow with a combination of different vowels, the yow, which is used in all sorts of contexts and has so many variation in the melody, in the length, in the pitch, general pitch, and so on. And this, I think, is basically used to get the attentions of the humans in their vicinity, their caretakers.
Yeah, because I guess we need a memo when they really want something. And yeah. It's interesting because when we look at the language and how cats are working to communicate with us, there's also, you talk about body language as well.
Yes, this body language or the visual signals is important as well. I mean, I'm a phonetician. I mainly look at the acoustic signals, the vocal signals of the cat, but you can't look at them and ignore the visual signals because they are so closely related to one another. So you can't really interpret a sound, a cat sound, a meow, for instance, unless you look at the context. And in the context are the visual signals, the body posture, the body movements, the tail movements, the head movements, the ear movements, eye movements, even the whiskers move sometimes. So you have to take that into consideration as well.
Well, they've got so much going on. Okay, so a little bit ago you talked about purring and how some of it we can hear and some of it we can't. What does purring mean? And is there ways that they're trying to tell us maybe when they're purring that they're really happy with us or not so much?
Well, again, there's much variation in the purring type as well. But I think the typical purring, which occurs when a cat is lying down calmly and is happy, is a sort of happy signal. I'm content. That cats who are hungry purr, cats that are stressed purr, cats who are in pain can purr, even cats who give birth can purr, and even dying cats purr. So it probably doesn't just signal I'm happy. I would say one way of translating it into English is I do not pose a threat, or please leave everything as it is, or keep on doing what you're doing. I'm fine as it is. Leave me alone. Don't push me. I do not pose a threat, if you see what I mean by that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so when one cat meets another cat, is there like greetings or small talk that they have within with the two of them?
Well, that depends if the cats are friends and know each other or not. But if cats who are friends and live together in a happy relationship, they tend to trill as a greeting phrase, the chirp kind of thing. And also cat mothers trill when she returns back to the nest to her kittens, and the kittens learn quickly to trill back and to use this very, very friendly sound. I think it's even friendlier than the purr sometimes, this trilling or chirruping. But cats who don't know each other and maybe who fight over the same territory, they don't usually trill when they meet. It's some more of a aggressive, defensive type of conversation there with growling, hissing, spitting, and that kind of sounds.
I think it's always, when I think of cats, because I have a dog who loves cats, usually it's the, kind of slap on the nose or what have you.
Yeah.
Kind of like you're close, but too close,
Well, that's another way of saying something with body language, right?
Mm-hmm.
But cats, interestingly enough, they are able to resolve such conflicts over territory and such stuff by just howling and yowling, growling, hissing at each other. And by doing that, I think there's a sort of a vocal competition. And the cat with the biggest voice is usually also the bigger, the more dominant, aggressive cat. And he or she tends to win these fights without actually going into a physical fight with their enemies. So I think that's a way of resolving such conflicts without actually being injured or risking being injured in some way. I think that's a good way of resolving conflicts.
Well, and you mentioned chirping. When cats do this kind of high chirping thing, it's a kind of a greeting in some ways. Can that mean other things as well? I'm sure that it probably does, but do you see that there's usually several strong associations with meanings?
Well, you said chirping. I'm not sure if you mean trilling now,
Trilling.
Or if you mean
yes,
or
sorry.
chirruping. Well, chirruping in my cats and the cats in our research project, which I've now studied, they seem to use trilling and chirruping when they greet during a friendly approach with a befriended cat, but also sometimes during play. And there's variation in this category as well. There's a more high-pitched chirrup, the brrrt kind of sound, which is a greeting sound. And there's a more low-pitched, a more grunt-like sound, like the something like that. Very short and it's still a trill, but to me, sometimes this is can be a greeting, but it can also be some sort of confirmation. Yes, I've understood that you're about to give me a treat, and I'm just sitting here waiting for it. It's almost like a thank you, if you like. Mm-hmm. So there is some differences there as well, and there's even a trill or a murmur or even a coo, which doesn't have this brrr, this like a rolled R kind of characteristic in it. It's more like a prolonged M consonant, which can mean something entirely different as well. I mean, cats in heat use cooing. In some females use cooing when they are in heat. just not these mating calls, but they can use quite soft sounds like the cooing as well. And even cats who seldom do meow. I have a cat myself who doesn't like meowing, or she hasn't been taught how to meow properly. She uses this instead of meowing when she needs my attention, and that works just fine as well.
Yeah, it usually seems that the cats get the owners trained very well.
They do. I think it's a trial and error thing. I mean, they try different ways of communicating with us, and when they succeed, they continue doing that, and when they're unsuccessful, they just drop that and try something different. They're smart cats, I think.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt, and it's interesting, how you were talking about when cats will respond, it's kind of a thank you, or there's some dialogue that's going back when we talk to our cats.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, cats and humans can sometimes produce long dialogues with each other, and they can respond back and answer back. And I've studied a few of these conversations as well. And of course, we don't talk to our cats, or many of us don't talk with our cats the same way that we talk with adult humans. We use a more baby talk style, speaking style. We have higher pitch, and we use larger pitch ranges when we talk to our cats, and specific melodic patterns, tonal patterns. And sometimes I've noticed that in several owners, they even sort of imitate the melody of what their cats are saying back to them. So if a cat says meow, the owner will give, yes, what do you want, with the same melody. And I find that fascinating as well. And that has led me to think, and we're investigating that right now, that maybe the cat can adapt their tonal patterns, their intonation to the humans as well. If they've heard us use a certain melody enough, they may adapt that and try to use it themselves. And I've even have some anecdotal evidence of that as well. So if you speak a different dialect, or have a different accent, or speak a different language, that the melody of the cat who lives in this environment has a slightly different melody than other cats. So it's not that cats use the same dialectal features as humans, but there seems to be some connection between the language that is spoken around the cat and the way that the melody, the patterns of the melody in the cat is adapted to work better, to communicate better with the humans.
It's very interesting that there's almost like this mimicking going back and forth between the two of them to have a dialogue.
Yes, and even voice quality seems to be something there. Sometimes I receive emails from cat owners who send videos of their conversations with their cats. And there was one example from a woman from the US who had a cat who had a very hoarse and a low-pitched cat vocalization going on in her cat. And when I listened to the video recording she had sent, it was clear that the cat was trying to imitate her voice, because her voice was fairly low-pitched and harsh in a way. So the cat was just trying to communicate with her owner in the best way she could, which was really interesting. And I've seen that in many other cases after that if you have a high-pitched voice, your cat sometimes adapts and uses a higher pitch as well. And if you have a low-pitched voice, it goes down in pitch instead. So I think that's quite fascinating.
I think so too. Well, and it's interesting because in your book, I mean, The Secret Language of Cats, there's so much information. And what I found interesting, you also talk about, what we would consider undesirable behavior, such as if they are peeing everywhere.
Yeah, I've been there and I've had problems, and I'm not a cat behaviorist, and so I won't go out and give any general advice, but we've had our share of problems with peeing everywhere. And of course, mostly it has to do with cats being stressed by another cat an intruder, a newcomer, and that was the case in our home. And there are so many good ways of dealing with that now. There are so many good cat behaviorists, and there's so much to read up on. And we've just learned even more now how to control that and how to prevent and try to redirect our cats' behaviors into becoming, less stressed and happier in a situation with other cats as well. But it's a long process, and as I said, we've had lots of problems with our cats, but fortunately they've ceased, and we're really, really happy about that.
I bet. I have had the same thing happen as well. I had a cat that used to, when I'd pull out my luggage, would think that would be the place to relieve itself. So it was, yeah.
It looks like a cat litter in some way with a box and everything. So, yeah.
Mm. So it's interesting. Well, and, and I know you're not a behaviorist, but when we look at, like, if cats are waking us up really early or, during the night, are there any suggestions on what can be done?
Well, I've read that one thing, don't get up and feed your cat and pay your cat attention. Instead, decide when you want to give your cat attention, and you should probably do that just before you go to bed. So you should give your cat some quality time, play with her, cuddle with her, give her attention. You should also feed your cat just before you go to bed, so you know that your cat is tired, happy, not hungry, and then you'll probably be able to sleep a good night's sleep without being woken up by your cat.
Yeah, without them demanding food in the wee hours. So, yeah. Because I think everyone who has a cat has gone through that,
Yeah, I think so too. Well, we've been through that, and with one of our first cats, and we learned from that experience. So just by applying these simple methods, I think everyone can sleep without having to wake up by their cats. Cats use a variety of warning signals. They can growl, which is this prolonged, very harsh, low-pitched kind of sound. They can hiss, and they can also howl or yowl, which is wow. That's what's going on during the mating season in our gardens at night. And they can even snarl or cry when it's very when a fight is imminent or in progress, and rah kind of screams. But I've noticed, and I don't recommend that to be done in every situation, but when you see your cat in a really, really dangerous situation, perhaps involved in a serious fight with another cat inside the bushes where you can't just go in and try to separate them using a blanket or a piece of cardboard box or cardboard or something, you could try to hiss at them, use the same sounds that they would use. And that might startle them enough to get separated and to stop the fighting. So I've tried that in some situations, and I don't do it very often, just when I know that there's something very, very bad is going to happen unless I do something. So I try to stand, a meter or two away from the cats, and I just hiss once or twice very, very clearly, the kind of sounds. And, I'm surprised to say so, but it has worked every time, for me at least. So that's one way of trying to avoid a really, really bad situation with cats.
Well, that's fascinating, because I think all of us have gone through situations where cats are, there's a new cat that's come into the territory, and so there's aggression that's going on, and last thing we want to see is them getting into a fight and getting hurt.
Yeah, and if they're getting hurt, you can use sound unless you can get to them. I mean, I don't say go in with your hands because you will be scratched and there will be blood and all that. But unless you can separate them with a blanket or a piece of cardboard, try to just separate them physically. You can try to use your own voice and use the same sounds that the cat would use, because they understand each other. So that's one way. Don't start yelling at them, because I don't think that works as well as the cat language in this particular serious situation.
Mm-hmm. What they can understand. When a cat has gone through a stressful situation, what are some ways to calm them down?
Cats are fairly good at calming themselves down when they've had a stressful situation. That's, I think, one of the reasons why cats purr. It's a sort of self-soothing sound. But I think it's just to be there, and unless you see that they want to be left alone, because many cats don't want to be fussed over when they've had a stressful situation. They want to relax and be left alone, rest quietly in their favorite spot, and just leave them until they come to you. But you can try to, if you have a good relationship with your cat, just to try to be there, give them a treat, try to pet them a bit and talk to them using a soft voice. That might help.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting. I've seen cats a lot with just, within the family, that maybe they're purring and their tail's wagging, at the same time. So when you have a cat like that, is there, what is all that saying to them, to us?
Well, if a purring cat is wagging its tail simultaneously, I think it's a warning signal which hasn't gone vocal yet. So you have to pay attention to the visual signals as well. That's what we were talking about earlier. So you can't just rely on the vocal signals. You have to look at the whole picture, the context, the situation, and also try to judge the emotional or mental state of the cat, and also the level of arousal or excitement. Is the cat calm? Is it focused on something? Is it excited, aroused? So, I mean, just by adding up all these signals will help you to interpret your cat better. So I think even if the cat is purring, when the tail is wagging, it's probably not this happy purring. It's more likely to be I'm stressed type of purring, or maybe even I'm in pain. So you have to look at the big picture, the whole picture.
Well, it's interesting because most people don't realize the whole picture, and your book, The Secret Language of Cats, really brings that all together. What do you want the readers to take away from your book?
I think that I would love if everybody who wants to understand and have the cat and have a happier relationship with their cats should just try to listen more carefully and try to look at their cats and try to just remember which type of sounds their cat are using in different situations. I think that goes a long way. And also, if you want your cat to be more vocal, it's a good idea to talk to your cat, because the more you talk to your cat, the more your cat will talk to you.
You can develop that relationship based on the both of them, the person and the cat, speaking with one another. Yeah,
I think so. But also, I mean, if you don't want your cat to be vocal, you can just use other signals as well. And I've heard of people who use sign language and use that with their cats, and the cats are fine. They don't use sounds because they've learned that, okay, these humans, they use visual signals to communicate, so let's do that ourselves. So again, the cats are really, really smart, and they learn, they adapt to us in order to be able to communicate with us better. So I think we should do the same to them and try to do our best to communicate with them as well.
Well, Susanne, I mean, we can talk forever about your book, The Secret Language of Cats. It's such a great resource. Where can people connect with you and be part of your community?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, we have a project website which is called meowsic.info, meowsic.info, where you can find information about our ongoing research project. And I think for now that's about it. But if they want to contact me, I mean, my email address is there if they want to send some questions. I'm not sure I will be able to answer very quickly, but I will read everything. And because I get so many emails from people wanting to ask me something about their cat vocalizations, but I'll read everything. And I'll hopefully be able to create a new website which is more interactive, where any cat owner can communicate with me, and so that we can learn and help each other to understand our cats even better.
Well, a great place to start is with the book, The Secret Language of Cats. Susanne, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Well, thank you, Professor. It has been such a pleasure to spend this time with you, and of course, to talk about your new book, The Secret Language of Cats. Again, The Secret Language of Cats is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie bookstores. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.